Thank you so much, guys, for coming to this press conference. It's the first press conference this year, which is why I wish to all of you Happy New Year and healthy New Year. After the press conference, we will be open to answer any questions from journalists, either in the room or across the globe, that are connected via the internet. And considering the seriousness of the situation in Italy right now, I would like to give the floor to my colleague, Francesca from Italy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christian. Thank you, everybody, for listening to us. I'm here to publicly tell what the mass media are not telling about the very serious and concerning situation that we are living in Italy. What's going on in Italy today is a true health service collapse. We are witnessing increasing of hospitalizations all over the country. There are rows of ambulances out of the emergency rooms, and people left alone in their houses with no public health assistance that arrive to hospitals when they are too serious to be saved. And all hospitals are so crowded with COVID cases that they cannot afford to give assistance to other illnesses, other problems. The fail of the government and of its strategy to stop the spread of the COVID-19 disease is masked behind false narrative and false figures about the percentage of vaccinated and unvaccinated people hospitalized and dead. 2 days ago, our president, Mr. Mario Draghi, made up a press conference where he exposed false figures that have been recognized to be false, evidenced to be false by the few journals and medias that are not totally controlled by the government itself. So the truth is that there is no difference between vaccinated and unvaccinated people regarding their health conditions and their being weak in front of the COVID threat. And besides that, the government is leading on a dreadful and awful hate campaign against unvaccinated people, which is fueling a sort of social division, a deep social division that could even lead us to a true civil war, whose spillover effect could spread also to other member states. And the reason for that is that there is no effectiveness with the measures that the government has introduced. The COVID certificates have just increased the infections because of the false sense of security of vaccinated people towards the possibility of being infected and transmit the infections. So the figures have dramatically increased. And in reaction to that, the government is continuously violating human rights and all the treaties' fundamental values, preventing unvaccinated people to work, to circulate on the country territory, and to have the least, the minimum rights that in a democracy should be assured and secured for everybody. People in this situation are already managing to run away from Italy. A minority of citizens, the unvaccinated, which are a small minority now because almost the 90% of Italian people are fully vaccinated, this minority is segregated and persecuted by the government for just political reasons. And I wonder how the EU institution can go on being indifferent to all of that, while one of the most important democracies and countries of the European Union is living this dreadful situation. I think that no European government can be exempted from the boundary respect of the rule of law, and that the EU Commission and the Council should intervene immediately to call for the respect of the rule of law, even towards the President of Italy, Mr. Mario Draghi, because the feeling among population today is that our president is untouchable and that he has the license to do whatever he likes to obtain the goal of, disposing all the stocks of vaccines already bought in a huge amount, even if they are not effective to the purpose. So my questions today are the questions that people are asking. Why are so many people being hospitalized and die in spite of the 90% of Italians being fully vaccinated? Why the Italian Health Institute has not been publishing monthly reports since September 2021? Why people injured by the vaccines don't receive any assistance from the public health service, and why no compensation is recognized to people who lost their relatives because of vaccines. This is the copy of the answer by the Ministry of Health to a man, a Sicilian citizen who just presented a compensation claim that has been rejected, saying that the action is inadmissible for the reason that vaccines are not mandatory. But the fact is that vaccines are mandatory because of express mandates and because of the vaccine passports that have been introduced lately and that forbid people to work, to have a salary if don't obey to this order. So why transparency is not guaranteed to all of us, to all people? And why, most of all, and I conclude, there is no inquiry, no investigation about the ingredients of these drugs. Because we witness on the social media the circulation of strange theories saying that ingredients of these vaccines are also something that shouldn't be there. The Japan government found contamination inside the Moderna batches, and there is no inquiry in the European Union about the possible contaminations of some batches. So we ask also for transparency about this issue, because public health is really important and must be defended by EU institutions by all means. Please listen to my call and help Italian people to have proportionate and respectful measures in Italy too. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Francesca. Ivan?
Thank you very much, colleagues. Can you hear me? Yeah, all right. Hello again. Hello to everybody. Thank you for the introduction. We are in January 2022 now. This is the third year of this COVID crisis. I would say that in the last few weeks or even months, we have seen a failure of public policies based on strict measures. We have seen it not just in Europe, but all over the world. As well, in the last few days and weeks, we also had a few statements by WHO, EMA, CEO of Pfizer, that are really a game changer. CEO of Pfizer claiming that their vaccines prove limited, if any, protection for Omicron. Statement by the WHO that this crisis cannot be solved or shouldn't be solved by boosters, and that they want and suggest that a super effective vaccine that could solve everything in one blow should be invented. That's basically what they were saying and promised 2 years ago. And some statements that COVID should be considered a common flu in the following months. So altogether, with dramatic situation in Italy, in France, and with all the protests around Europe, protests in Belgium, in Germany, in France, in Netherlands, in Luxembourg, and all around Europe, I would like to use this opportunity, since it's happening today, to emphasize an event that is happening in Croatia today. Croatian doctors are protesting Croatian health system today because the health system and the ministry is not allowing them to treat their patients. Clearly, the governments of Europe, especially the ones based on strict measures, don't have the solution for this crisis. There are people who have solution for this crisis. There is a growing network of doctors all around the world and in Europe who have their treating protocols as well. So why are they being denied? They shouldn't be denied. We need all the good solutions, and these people should not be censored. So we have a protest in Croatia about that today as well. I would like to use this opportunity as well to call all the protesters of Europe, especially, as I said, from Germany, from highly populated area of Ruhr, which is not far from Brussels, from the Netherlands, their capital of Amsterdam, Rotterdam, and others. The protesters in Luxembourg, the protesters all around Belgium and France, to come to Brussels on the 23rd of January. This is the heart of the European Union. This is where this policy was invented. This is where digital green certificate was invented. This is where discrimination and segregation started. This is where the censorship of science and medicine is supported, unfortunately, and this is where this has to end. So I am calling on all of you to come to Brussels on the 23rd of January. Let's send a clear message. Enough of false policies, enough of bad solutions, enough of censorship, enough of discrimination. It is time for scientists to speak, to doctors to speak. It's time for an open debate and good solutions and respect of human rights. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ivan. Firstly, we stand by the people who want fundamental freedoms and democracy. Secondly, we will sanction all those responsible for violence and repression. The people took the peaceful protest to the streets, and the authorities answered with violence, and this cannot be accepted. This is not our statement. I just quoted right now from a statement released by Ursula von der Leyen on August 19, 2020, after the violent protests in Belarus, or I will rephrase that. After the peaceful protests in Belarus that were answered by the Belarusian government with violence. Now my question to Ursula von der Leyen is the following. Why is she silent right now? When people all across Europe who took it to the streets in order to defend and ask for their basic fundamental rights to be respected again by their own governments, is not saying anything. When on the European streets right now, innocent and peaceful Europeans are beaten by police, are mauled by dogs, and you have cavalry here in Brussels that almost ran over peaceful people. I was at few protests, 3 in Brussels, 1 in Amsterdam, I saw two protests in Brussels, the one in December, the two of them in December. Peaceful protests, where the police, without being provoked, answered with violence. But I was on January 2nd in Amsterdam, in Netherlands, and what I saw over there, I could not believe that in Western Europe, a police department, a government, could treat people the way those people were treated by the police in Amsterdam on January 2nd. And I show you a picture. This is just one out of the many pictures that were released by the media when innocent protesters were mauled by police dogs. The only thing that these people in Amsterdam asked for was not for higher pensions, for higher salaries, for new elections like the one in Belarus. The only thing those people asked for was to have their basic, fundamental human rights respected by their own government, which did not happen. Another thing that shocked me after this inhumane and brutal response of the police in Amsterdam were the veterans of the Dutch army. They came and they created a line of defense between these brutal police forces and the innocent bystanders. And if you look on the images, you will see that the one who got beaten first were the veterans. These people, look, I'm not Dutch. I'm not a citizen of that country. But I have to use this opportunity to thank them for their service. This should be an answer that their own government should give them. These people risk their lives for the life and for the prosperity of their citizens. They did that, in different NATO operations. And they did that on January 2nd. After I came from Amsterdam, I just could not believe it. I've seen what happened in 1989, in December in Romania, when we took it to the streets to fight against communism. We asked back then not only slogans against communism, but we asked and we demanded liberty, freedom. Now, until 1989, 1990, always the West looked at the East, saying, well, after the Iron Curtain is this evil empire, as Ronald Reagan used to call USSR. After the collapse of Soviet Union, we all believed that these values, these humane values, I would say, that made such a great difference between the Western world and the world that was after the Iron Curtain, will prevail. And look where we are right now. From an Iron Curtain handled by the USSR, we live right now in a world that you could easily call it Iron Fist. This is what EU became. People cannot protest anymore. If they peacefully protest, they will be attacked and brutally beaten by the police. Their basic fundamental rights were stripped away from them by their own governments. And the question that we should all ask is, where are we? What is the direction that we will allow this EU to take? Clearly, what we see right now is under the leadership of Ursula von der Leyen, EU is transitioning from democracy to tyranny. I said it before that the difference between democracy and tyranny is simple. When you know everything about your government, that is democracy. When the government knows everything about you, that is tyranny. Because transparency is one of the key elements that makes the difference between democracy and tyranny. But the second thing that makes the difference between democracy and tyranny is the respect for fundamental rights. See, those countries, after the Iron Curtain, that were influenced by the Marxist philosophy, they all said that people, the citizens, do not have basic fundamental rights. All these rights are actually privileges, granted, given by the government. We in the West, we developed this great society where we believed, and we put it in constitutions, in treaties, in conventions, that every person has a unique dignity that must be respected and protected by the government. Liberty, freedom, dignity is not a right, or are not rights granted by the government, but these are natural rights that the governments must protect. And look where we are right now. Macron just said a few days ago that if you're not vaccinated or if you don't have a green certificate, you're not a citizen anymore. You know what that means? That you don't have rights. Francesca just said what is happening in Italy. Imagine those Italian citizens on the islands. If they are not vaccinated or don't have a green certificate, they cannot use mass transportation. These people pretty much are imprisoned on those islands. Do we live in a Europe as an area of freedom, as the treaty says? Or do we accept this EU under the leadership of Ursula von der Leyen to become a prison camp? So this is the reason why we have to congratulate and thank all these people from all these countries in Europe that took it to the streets. It is sad that we have to go on the street and demand the respect for basic fundamental rights, but we don't have any other choice right now. So on January 23rd, there will be a huge protest in Brussels, and I hope that more of the European citizens will be here to demand exactly what we all ask for: freedom, democracy, and liberty. On January 22nd, there will be a protest in Stockholm. I was invited over there, and I will participate to that protest as well. The solution to what is happening right now in Europe, it's simple. It's a civic solution and a political solution. As far as the civic solution, we have to protest and demand from these corrupt governments and tyrannical governments that our rights be restored. As far as the political solution, I really hope that all the EU citizens woke up and they should not ever again vote in any office, any candidate, and any party who supported the abusive measures that we all face with right now in Europe. Thank you.